Hey, my name is David, and I'm going to do a vector drawing today using Inkscape, which is a free program anyone can download and install. It's a lot of fun. It's something I started doing for fun a couple years ago, and it's turned into a neat little hobby, so I thought I would share some of the things that I've learned and figured out, some of the techniques that I use, and I hope that you can learn something. If you create something cool, please share it with me. You can find me on Twitter at Dren, DREN_Braves. And yeah, I'd love to see what you create, and I hope you can learn something from this. So today, what we're going to be drawing is a classic moment from the movie The Sandlot, one of my all-time favorites. So we've got Hamilton Porter here, and when you once you have Inkscape installed, I don't know if everything is going to look exactly the same as I have it here, but you can look at the view menu and try and find all these different toolbars and things. But the first thing you're going to want to do is find an image that you like, that you want to kind of replicate, and just paste it right in here. This layers tab here is going to be pretty important. What I like to do is I like to have one layer that has an image that I'm working off of. And so if you just double click on here, we can just call this photo, whatever you want, and then click the plus, and we're going to create another layer on top of this, and I'm going to call that drawing. So you can create as many layers as you want. Sometimes it's useful to have multiple layers for backgrounds and different purposes, but we're just going to use two today. So we'll have our drawing is going to be on top, and the order of these you can click and drag to rearrange the order of these, but we want to have the drawing on top. And what I'm going to do with the photo, if you go ahead and click on the photo, this is a sliding bar here called opacity. We want to make it kind of transparent so that we can, it's just going to be like light in the background, and we can kind of draw on top of it. And then I'm going to click this lock next to it so that if I click on it, it won't move the picture around or anything. So it's just going to be locked in place there. Okay, so then you want to make sure you click on your drawing layer. And the nice thing about this is very simple. Really anyone can do this because we're really only going to use one tool. So these are the different tools that you have, and sometimes it can be useful to draw squares or circles or polygons or whatever, but really we're just going to use this, the Bezier curves and straight lines. This is going to be our bread and butter. We're going to use this to do pretty much everything. So as well as these pointer tools, and I'll show you how to use each of these. So go ahead and click on this thing, and it'll just bring up, this is basically like a pen tool, and there's a few different options up here of different ways that you can draw lines. Now I generally keep mine on the regular button here, and then up here you have different shapes that you can work with, and we're most likely going to use the ellipse, and so you'll see when that comes into play later. Occasionally triangles can be useful, but for the most part we're going to just use none, and this is just going to be just a basic straight line. So one thing to keep in mind while you're doing the drawing is kind of, you want to keep in mind layers of, you know, what is going to go on top of what. So for instance, the bat is behind his head. It's only partially behind his fingers and his hands, so we're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. But just something to kind of keep in mind, because it's, well, you'll see what I mean, but sometimes you can make your life a lot easier by not having to draw really defined edges if you can just create an object and then put something on top of it. For instance, when you're drawing his head, we're going to create a shape that is going to be kind of a consistent color and things for his face. We don't really need to worry about the top edge because we're going to stick a hat on top of it. And again, you'll kind of see what I mean. So when I do something like this, I usually like to start with the face, and I just kind of trace an outline around the face. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it using straight lines. So I'm just going to start, we want to kind of pay attention to like any edges or and the way the curves are. And so I'm just going to go ahead and click right here, and that's going to create a node right there. And I'm not actually like tracing out the curve of his ear. I'm just kind of looking at it and trying to find different inflection points in where the curve changes. So I'm going to stick another one right there, and then maybe one right there, and I'm just gonna, let's see, we'll go down to his neck here, and boom, his ear's sticking out from under his hat over there. Boom. So now we have kind of the general shape of his face. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this tool called the Edit Path by Nodes. So this is a really useful tool. What it allows us to do is we can click and drag these lines to create curves. So I can just click on this line and just drag it up, and you can kind of like fidget around with it and get it to be exactly the shape that you want it. So then I'm going to do his ear here, and you can do this real fast. I'm going a little slower right now just to kind of demonstrate, but yeah, we're just going to go all the way around and create the shape and the curves of his head. And like I said, I'm not even going to worry about defining this line really closely, because we're going to put a hat on top of this, and so you won't even see that line there. And you can also, another way you can edit these curves is if you click on one of the nodes, it'll give you these handles here, and you can move these handles around to really finely tune the way that the curves are shaped. Okay, so that's the face. And then usually the next thing I like to tackle is the eyes, because it's one of the more tricky things to do. And this is going to really come down to just whatever artistic style you want to do. This is not meant to be a tutorial on how to do art, because let's face it, I'm not an artist, I'm a mathematician. But basically what you want to do is my philosophy when I do one of these is I want to try to use as little detail as possible while it's still very recognizable. So we want to just really focus on what are the key features that are on the person's face. So obviously defining the eyes is going to be important. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start at the corner of the eye, and then go to the other corner, and then right back. And so this is actually like a really narrow rectangle right now. And so I'm going to just do this thing again where I drag the lines down like this to kind of create the shape of his eye. So that's like the white of his eye. And then in order to create the pupil, I guess we are going to use this circle tool here, would be the easiest way to do it. So I just choose the circle tool, and I'm going to just start anywhere and start clicking and dragging. And I'm going to hold the control key on my keyboard, and what that'll do is that it's going to like snap this circle to be a perfect circle. If you don't do that, then it'll just allow you to create any shape of ellipse, which can be useful. But in this case, I just want a circle. And notice that it kind of gave me this little Pac-Man. This may or may not happen to you. On the circle tool, there are different options where it basically allows you to, if you use this node tool, you can click and drag and make this Pac-Man, so to speak, however big you want. Or if you go back to the circle tool, you can just click on this and it'll make it into a whole circle. So this picture is a little grainy, but we just want to kind of estimate about how big the pupil is. And if we use this normal selector tool, it'll give us handles where we can just click and drag to change the size. And notice this is kind of stretching it into an ellipse. So I'm going to undo that. And if we come up here, there's this little lock button. So I'm going to do that, and that's going to constrain the proportions. So it'll just shrink it down to another circle, so we can kind of fine tune that however we want. I don't know, it's not going to matter too much exactly how big we make this. So then we want to trim this circle, and we can use another shape to trim it. But and I'll show you how to do that, but when we do that, it kind of uses up the shape and it's gone, and we want to keep this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this and copy and paste, so I have another version of this, and I'm going to just kind of layer it right on top, and it'll snap right on top of the other one, so it's in the exact same location. And then what we're going to do is, I already have this shape selected. I'm going to hold shift and click on the circle. And then we're going to go up to the object, clip, set. And then that has clipped down our circle here to exactly the shape of the eye. And then I'm not sure what color Ham's eyes are. Obviously it's hard to tell with the shadow, but we'll give him green eyes. We'll give him like a dark green or something. And we're gonna put shadows on top of this, and so it is gonna be harder to tell in the finished product, but we just wanna get something down. And then we'll click on the white and make that white. And then again, this is gonna come down to artistic style. When I started doing these, I made a lot of them where I would have the outline like this, and it gives it a nice cartoony effect. It's just something you'll have to play with. Lately I've been wanting to remove this outline, and so you have this fill and stroke menu here, and this is really, really important. We're going to be using this a lot. So we'll come over here. We have the fill where we can fine tune the color inside the shape, and then the stroke paint right here. If you want to make the border of it bigger or smaller, you can go to the stroke style. You can make it dashed or however you want to do, but you can make it bigger or whatever, but we just want to get rid of it. So I'm going to click on stroke paint and then choose this, and so it'll just go away. So there's one eye, and oh, we need one more circle in here for the black part of his eye, and we're just gonna kind of stick that in right there. Okay, and then eyes can be very complicated. If you've ever taken a drawing class, there's a lot of detail you can put into them. Now I like to put, again, as little detail as possible, and so the way that I like to do eyes is I'll do what I've done here, and then I'm going to go back to this tool and we're going to choose the ellipse. And what I like to do is I like to do basically an eyelid on top, and so I'm just going to click here and click here. I double clicked to finish off the ellipse because you can make ellipses with as many nodes as you want, but that's not what we're doing in this case. And so notice it made just this big chunky ellipse. Well, we're going to go back to our node tool, click on this, and it gives us a little handle right here that we can use to make it skinny. And so we can go down and make it as skinny as we want. And then I'm going to click and drag this to make it kind of an arc. So that's pretty much what I'm going for. I just want like a top eyelid, and again, this will just come down to your own artistic style of how you want to do the eyes, but that's how I'm going to do it for Ham. And sometimes I'll do a bottom eyelid too. You can see, it's hard to see here because it's so dark, but you can see on this other one he's kind of got this line down here below his eye. So I'm just going to copy this and paste, and then I'm going to hit V on my keyboard, which is going to vertically flip that. These are all just shortcuts that I use. And we're just going to put this down here. I'm going to make this one a little narrower. Usually I like to have the top eyelid be pretty thick and then the bottom eyelid be thinner. Again, it's just however you want to style it. And sometimes I like to also make this a little bit transparent so it's not so dark and black. And the way that we can do that is go back over here to the fill, and we have all these different options here, but this bottom one is the transparency, and this is just a slider, so we can make this a little more transparent so it's not going to be quite as dark. And I'll probably do that to this top one as well. And these are just things that you'll figure out how transparent you want them to be for your final product. Okay, and then this is a little shortcut that I use. I'm sure an actual artist would probably freak out seeing me do this, but it's just what I do to save time. I've found that the eyes are pretty much the same, and you don't even have to flip them. Usually if you just draw one eye, you can pretty much just copy it over, and you might need to rotate it a little bit. So the way that you can rotate it is I have all of this selected. I'm just going to click on top of it again, and it'll change these handles from stretching to rotating. So I'm just, oops, I missed the thing. I'm just going to rotate it slightly, and we want to get that in the right place. he's kind of squinting a little bit, so I'm gonna go back to here and I'm gonna just stretch this a little bit. So I'm totally cheating here, but and then we also want to play with this eyelid. He's kind of like squinting a little bit differently, so I want to change the shape of this one. I don't know. This is where it becomes a little more like art. Just however you want to do it, but you can kind of see how I've shaped these. The eyes are pretty much the same. You know, you want, oh, I didn't think this pupil here shouldn't be stretched like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's the eyes. I mean, you can do however much detail you want to do there. You could add eyelashes and add all kinds of lines, but this is kind of my standard thing that I do for most of my drawings, is I just kind of do something like this. And you can adjust things later. Once you fill in the rest of the face, you might say, oh, I don't really like how that looks, and you can change it. So the next thing we're going to do is he has these shadows over his eyes, and most people, I mean, it depends on the lighting, but most people are going to have some kind of shadow over their eye. And so we're going to go back here to this tool and make sure we change it back to none. Can't tell you how many times I've gone out and drawn a big shape and realized it was still on the ellipse setting, and I had to go back and redo it. So we're going to do the same kind of thing that we did to define his head, and this is going to be pretty ambiguous of how you want to define these shadows, but we're just going to slap some things down here, and this is going to be the shape of my shadow. I hope you're digging the music. All right, let's see how that looks. So right now this is just an outline, but they give us all these really nice colors down here. So we can, if you have a shape selected, you can just go down and click on any color and it'll fill it in with that. So I'm gonna fill this in with black. Obviously that's gonna cover up his entire eye, so we need to go in and make that transparent. And this is something that you're definitely gonna have to adjust once you finish the whole face. You're gonna have to see like how dark you want these shadows to be. But we'll just do it like that for now, and I'm gonna go into the stroke and remove the stroke. So there's that shadow, and really don't want a sharp corner right there, so I'm gonna just go tweak that. Okay, and then let's go do the same thing on the other side. This shadow has a really different shape. It's gonna kind of follow the whole edge of his face. Okay. All right, we'll do it like that. I'm gonna remove that stroke, and then if I just go over here to fill and I click in this fill button, it's gonna give it the same level of transparency and color of the last thing that I did. So again, we might decide to change some of this later on, but it's nice to kind of check up on your drawing and see how things are looking. So you can come over here to your photo and click on the eye and it'll make the photo disappear. And we don't have a lot of detail in here yet, but you can tell it's a face and you can tell those are eyes, so that's good. Okay. Let's see, he doesn't really have very discernible eyebrows. I guess that's kind of his eyebrow right there. It's a little bit hard to tell, but we should probably put in an eyebrow here. Again, it's really hard to tell from this picture. It's where the art comes in a little bit. We're just gonna, usually I'll just make an eyebrow as kind of like a triangle shape like this, and modify these edges just to give it kind of an eyebrow shape. And then, oh boy, choosing the color. He's obviously got reddish brown hair, so Maybe we'll choose this, get rid of that stroke, and then I like to make the eyebrows pretty transparent, and that is because, I don't know, the eyebrows kind of blend into the skin pretty frequently. Now, I just drew this eyebrow on top of the shadow. I want the eyebrow to be under the shadow. It won't make a huge difference, but that's just how I want to do it. So a nice little trick to order things is you can use the page up and page down keys on your keyboard. And so I want to move this down beneath the shadow, and so I'm just going to hit page down, and notice how that changed where when I can just go page up, page down, but notice it moved it behind the shadow there. And then we want to do another eyebrow. I'm just going to copy this and paste it, and I'm going to hit H, and that'll horizontally flip it. And then we can grab it over here, rotate it a little bit, and we'll probably want to change it just a little bit. All right, and then let's bump that down beneath the shadow. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So that's probably all the detail we're going to do on the eyes. Now let's move to the nose. This is going to be kind of different for everyone you draw, and it's going to really depend on the lighting. But again, we want to do as little detail as possible here. So usually a good starting point is the nostrils. So right now we can only see one of his nostrils, and so I'm just going to slap a line down here, a shape down here, and I'm just going to kind of drag, and we're going to do this. Make it black, remove the stroke, and make it a little bit transparent. Okay, so the next thing that I'm noticing is usually there's going to be like a curve here and a curve here to define the edge of the nostrils. And I usually like to do this using the ellipse tool. So we'll just slap one down like that, and then squeeze this down, and that'll kind of define that edge of the nose. I'm going to make that some level of transparent. I'll just copy that, paste it, flip it, and oops. Oh, also, if you're wondering how I'm zooming, I'm holding down the control key and using the wheel on my mouse, and that's zooming in and out. Just a nice little shortcut. Oh, it's raining here. That doesn't happen very often. We're in a drought. That's good. Good job, rain. Okay. So we're getting some good definition here on the nose. He's got kind of these creases right here, so I think we're going to do another set of ellipses here. We'll see how this looks. Obviously, there are a lot of different ways you could do all of this, so this is by no means the only way to do this. This is just how I do it. And yeah, we'll just do that right there. I'm going to copy this again, flip it, and we'll just move that right in there. Okay. And then what next? He's got kind of a shadow on the side of his nose here. You could draw a shape here. How do we want to handle this? Let's try this. I'm actually going to, if you look at this photo, the shadow on top of the eye almost kind of like just bleeds into the shadow on the nose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add to this shadow. So what I want to do is I want to create some more nodes here so that we can click and drag and add to this. So with this node tool, you can hover over the edge and just double click. We're going to create additional nodes here. And just by default, when you add nodes like this, it makes them kind of funky, where if you drag this edge, it like makes them be like round. It doesn't let you have any sharp corners. So when I add nodes, I usually just highlight them and then click on this button here that makes them like corner nodes so that we can have more sharp edges. And I think I want to have another node right there. And we're just gonna kind of, I don't know what to do with this. Sometimes it helps to click off your drawing so that you can look at the full photo and just decide how you want to shape this. There's no right way to do this, that's for sure. There is a wrong way. You can definitely do this wrong, but I don't know. See, that does a pretty good job. It's starting to define the nose there. Okay, and then the next thing I think I want to do is we have this shadow beneath his nose that's pretty dark. So let's draw this in, and oh boy, I think we're gonna just slap it in here like this. Oops, see, there we go. I had the ellipse tool selected, so it messed up, so we've got to start that again. Sometimes this gets really tricky how to decide to do this. I'm going to make that transparent there. I don't know, I guess this shadow kind of makes this line here obsolete, so I actually want to get rid of this line now because we're kind of defining that with this shadow. Let's make these edges play nice. Probably want that more transparent. I don't know, we'll adjust that later. So the next thing is the mouth. Now the mouth can be really tricky, but we just want to break it up into easy little pieces. So thinking about the layers again, I want to do the teeth first because they're in the back, and then we're going to draw the lips on top of them. So teeth can be pretty scary, but I found a pretty good way that I think makes them look pretty good. And we don't have a lot of resolution here to clearly see how his teeth are defined, but basically we're just going to draw some rectangles here for his teeth, and we don't need to be super precise because again we're going to draw lips on top of it. And don't worry too much about these edges right now. I know it is going to look really, really funky at first, but we're just going to slap some teeth in here. And oh, one thing I should point out is that this tool has snapping functionality, where it knows that there's a corner here, and so it's like if I get the cursor anywhere near it, it'll say, oh, we're gonna snap to that handle, and you can control how it snaps and what it snaps to with these buttons over here. So like this option is to snap to the center of objects, and it kind of does like a center of mass thing almost. It's pretty useful. Or you can have it snap to like smooth nodes, where right now it's only snapping to corners. So we'll see if we need to change any of those settings later, but for now I think we'll be okay. All right, so that looks really bad, obviously. So what I like to do with the teeth is we want to keep these edges, but we just want them to be really, really, really tiny. So I'm going to go to the stroke style, and we're basically going to make them like almost non-existent, and we'll have to play around with this, but probably even thinner than that. Okay, we're going to do that. And then I like to do just a little bit, so I'm going to just click and drag to select all these, and I want to just do some little rounded edges on here. A trick if you have, I think I want to move these boxes around a little bit. So something you can do is you can press that, shift, click this other one, then I'm going to click and drag to highlight. This is actually highlighting 4 nodes, 2 from here and 2 from here. Then I can just click and drag these so that I can make things a little more even. And I just want to kind of make the tops and bottoms a little bit round. Should select everything again. And then make that a little round, that a little round. Okay, and then let's give the teeth some color. I usually go find one of these yellow hues and choose something that's like not quite pure white, because pure white teeth look weird. Okay, so there's the teeth. It looks pretty weird right now, but it'll look a lot better once we get the lips in, I hope. So let's start with the top lip. A trick I learned in a drawing class in high school many years ago is that it just makes your drawing look better if you have the top lip be pretty dark. So let's just see how that works. So I'm going to draw out a rough shape of the top lip. And we'll come over here. Usually there's a little like dimple in the top there. So that's going to be our basic shape. And something like that. Okay, so then what I like to do for the lips is I like to choose kind of a dark shade of red. It's almost going to look like they're wearing lipstick, and it'll depend on the person and their skin color and all that, but this is probably going to be a good color. Let's get rid of that stroke. And then we're going to make it pretty transparent. And basically what we want it to do is we want the lip to kind of blend in with the skin color a little bit. And so that's something that you won't be able to really see right away. And it just occurred to me that these teeth, we really don't want them showing under the lip, obviously. So I'm going to, oops. We're going to try to make these teeth disappear under the lip. So notice I have these 2 nodes here that go kind of in line with the lip, and we have this curve here. I don't know, we can just kind of drag this and adjust this so that yeah, that'll be okay. Oops. And let's drag this guy down. Okay. And one thing that I kind of want to do as like a back layer, so I'm going to actually send this layer down to the back, because we want like a really dark, almost black, to just go behind the teeth. And so, I don't know, I'll just kind of drop this down here like this. And I'm going to hit end. If you hit end, it's going to send it back behind everything, and that's what we want in this case. So I'm just going to make that black, get rid of that stroke, and I'm going to adjust this because I don't want it to overlap too much with the lip. Okay. And then time for the bottom lip. Now he's got some interesting shadows. He's got a white highlight here and some other shadows down here, but let's not get too worried about that right now. Let's just kind of slap down a shape here and define his lip. Okay, that should be good. And then we're going to choose a lighter shade of red than what we did for the top lip, and make it also pretty transparent. I guess I should have thought out these teeth a little better, because I should have drawn out the lips first, so that I could more easily make the teeth kind of go in line with the shape of the lip, because we don't really want him biting his lip. So that's something that's just going to depend on what you're drawing. That's the beauty of this, is that you can easily change things if you decide you want to do it differently. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I think I want this top lip a little darker, but it's kind of hard to tell until we've placed on the skin color. But you can see the face is starting to really come together here. So let's do this ear real quick. Ears have a lot of detail, and I don't really want to draw. That's another thing that I like to think about, is what are you trying to draw attention to? We're not trying to draw attention to his ears, and so we don't want to put too much detail in the ears, but we do need to put some detail. So I'm just gonna kind of block in some of the shadows that we can easily see, and I rarely spend much time on the ears. I just want to kind of get something down there. Let's make that a gray shadow, remove that stroke. And then everyone has different, these shadows, the way they work, everyone is different. Yeah, no right or wrong way to do this, just, I don't know. Things like that can get really overwhelming if you let them overtake you. I think I want at least this one to not be quite as dark. Maybe this one be a little darker, I don't know. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do on the ear there. So next thing, we want to kind of define his chin here. He's got a little shadow underneath his chin. Also, I think this is like his body underneath his shirt. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. We'll figure that out later, but let's do his chin right now. So I'm going to do a shape, I don't know, kind of like this. And that should be good. I think that will do pretty well. And then we need to get this shadow underneath his lip. So it starts somewhere around here, goes down here, almost all the way around the side of his face. This is where it gets so tricky. It's like, how do you decide where to put these lines down? But it's just going to come down to personal taste and how detailed you want it to be. And if you put it down and don't like how it turned out, then you can always change it. All right, let's see how that looks if we probably don't want this one to be too dark. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Then let's see, we need to do something over here to kind of define his face from his collarbone. So let's just do a little shadow in here. Just something little like this. darker though. Okay, I think that's looking good. Now I see a little bit of hair peeking out here under his hat, so let's do that. Just gonna do a little triangle, and I'll just drag this up here because the hat is gonna cover that part. And then we'll give it this nice reddish brown color here. Should we make it a little bit more red? We can choose RGB and give it a little more red tint to it. I don't know. Sure. Okay, and then let's do the hat real quick because that's going to be easy. This hat is very easy because it's just navy. So we just want to slap an outline here. Little bump for the knob on top. And I think just like that. Okay, so we can just give his hat like a nice dark navy color, or we can get a little, I think this would be a good opportunity to try out something called a gradient, because if you look at this photo, notice how it's like really dark over here and then it gets lighter over on this other side. So this is a fun, easy thing you can do. First of all, let's just kind of choose like what our baseline color is going to be. So maybe we'll say this is going to be like the lighter shade of blue. And on the fill thing over here, we have these different gradient options. So we want to choose linear gradient. And then it's going to give us this line, and we need to use the node selector tool. So I want this side to be over here. And this side right now it defaulted to transparent. But what we can do is we can click on this node and then choose another color over here. So we can choose like an even darker blue. Or wait, I got it backwards. Yeah. We want the lighter shade to be over here and the darker shade to be over here. And then you can just kind of tweak this however you want to give it a cool effect. Just like that. I don't know. Looks like you can just barely see the brim of the hat back there, so we should probably add that as well. Oh, and with the gradients, you can actually do multicolor gradients. It is this tool right here. If you click on this, then it allows you to add nodes. You can double click on the line, and then you can like add additional colors, whatever you want. So you can mess around with that, but we're not doing that right now. Okay, let's give him a little brim behind his ear here so you can tell he's wearing a baseball cap backwards and not like a skull cap or something. And I want this to just go behind his ear, so I'm going to press End on my keyboard, and that's going to assign it to the back. And then let's just give it this nice dark blue color. Okay, now he's got a little bit of a shadow underneath the hat, but I don't think I'm going to worry about that. So now we want to choose his skin color. And usually they have some pretty good options here. Sometimes you might want to just tweak it. I think that's probably good. So when you just click off the drawing and we can kind of see, now is the time. Okay, so I can tell something's gone wrong with his mouth here because our background is not showing up. So what happened there? I'm just missing it. There we go. Okay, that's looking better already on the mouth. Kind of adjust some of these lines to just make it look cleaner. Don't drive yourself too crazy over these little details, or do if that's what you're into, but I don't know, I think we need to modify this skin color a little bit because he definitely has some kind of rosy cheeks. And also I want to do something better about this shadow here. So I'm actually going to get rid of this fill because I want to basically just redo this. I think we're going to get rid of this line. And we're going to just do this shadow completely different. Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I think that's better. I don't know. This is where you can drive yourself crazy. Okay, are there any other shadows that we want to put on here? I mean, there's always more you can do, but again, I think less is more with this. So let's try again with this. There's a lot of different ways you can tweak these colors. I usually keep it on the hue, saturation, lightness tab because I think that makes it easiest. Oh yeah, there we go. Not that far. I don't know, you can just play around with this, but I think that's a little bit better for his skin color. Yeah, we're getting there. Now I think I want to make these shadows a little darker because they are real dark. Well, actually, maybe not, because you don't have to follow the exact image, and I almost want his eyes to have a little more definition than what we're getting from the screenshot from the movie. So we can kind of take some creative liberties with this. I guess this is where the art comes in. I am not an artist, so I'm sure if there are any actual artists watching this, they're probably absolutely cringing, but hey, this is me, this is what I do. People kind of like it a little bit, so I think, unless they're just flattering me. It's very possible. I don't really like how high this goes. I'm going to delete this node, so you can highlight a node and just come over here and hit minus, and it'll get rid of it, and then I'm going to adjust this curve, kind of be down here. Yeah, I think I like that better. And then we can tweak some of these down here. You really have to kind of wait until everything is down to make some of these decisions about how dark you want things to be, and you have to look at it in its full context, really. And it's very difficult to decide sometimes. You just have to play around and see what you like best, what looks the best. Okay, well, I think we're getting there. I want to do a little something with his lip here. Okay. All right, well, I may decide to change some of this up later, but we will just do this for now. Okay, so time to move on to, let's do his shirt next. This is going to be a little challenging with all these stripes, but we can certainly do it. So again, I'm just going to start by kind of blocking out the shape of the shirt, and I'm not going to worry too much about a lot of detail here because we're going to be drawing an arm over it here and a bat over it here, so I just want to get this general shape down. And notice how I'm kind of paying attention to these inflection points, where it'll just be easy to drag and drop these lines later. Castlevania, nice. Okay, and that line is just going to go under his head. So I've drawn this on top. I'm just going to hit end, boom, and now that line is behind his head. So we don't have to worry about that little segment. And this is where you can really save yourself a lot of time as you get experience in learning how to arrange these objects so that you don't have to nitpick over certain details too much. I really hope this is actually recording and I'm not just talking to my computer. I did a few test runs and it seemed to be working, but who knows. Okay, so before we start worrying about all the colors and shadows and things on his shirt, I actually want to block out all of these shapes first, because because the way we drew this, if we just start filling in color here, we're not going to be able to see behind it to these details of his arms and things. So I just want to draw the outlines of everything first. And once again, I can't say this enough, but it just comes down to your own style of how much detail you want to put into this. And I've kind of, oh dear, I'm getting into some weird territory here. How do I want to handle? I think these fingers need to be their own separate object because I want this part of the arm to be underneath the bat and these fingers to be over the bat. So I'm actually going to undo all these nodes that I just drew. And I'm just going to stop his hand, I guess, under his thumb. I don't know. You'll see later when I add in the fingers. This is kind of just a puzzle figuring out how to fit all these layers together. Alright, he's got big forearms, buff kid. Alright, so this arm is going to be on top of the shirt. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the bat. Let's see, let's do the bat knob its own, let's make that its own object. And then we're gonna do the handle of the bat. It's gonna go all the way up here. Okay, and then I'm going to hit end because I want that bat to be behind his head. But I want, this is going to get tricky. We're going to have to rearrange things once we start putting in all the colors because now I can't really keep track of what's on top of what, but that's okay. I'm doing this kind of weird, but We want this bat knob to be on top, so I'm gonna say home. Okay, and then what do we want to do next? His fingers and thumb. Okay, and okay, so we've got everything nicely defined there. So for the fingers, what I usually like to do, if they're kind of grouped together like this, I just like to do a little ellipse to separate one finger from the next. And this will depend on the hand position and the lighting again, whatever it is that you're drawing. But I'm going to slap that in there and make it transparent, and I'm just going to copy this and drag it over here for the next finger, some slight adjustments, and one more for this. Okay, and I usually don't do anything with the fingernails. Again, it's, if you want to, you can, but I don't want to make it too complicated. It's going to be slightly cartoony, which is fine with me. Okay, so then the only other thing is we have some weird stuff going on with the shadows here, but I almost think since we have these separate objects, I don't think I want to do any gradients or any fancy stuff here. I think we can just do this pretty simply. So since these fingers don't really have any shadows, let's make them the same color as the face. And then let's make the arm and thumb, let's make them the same color as the face, but then we're going to adjust them. I want to just make them like darker and more shadowy, kind of, not that much. We'll see how that looks. And I want to get rid of all the edges. Maybe make this thumb the same color as that. And then the bat. So I think a gradient would look nice on this bat. So let's choose this object and we'll just start it with black. And then choose linear gradient. So I'm going to drag this one here and then this one up here. And this edge we want it to be, what color is this bat? Pretty light brown. So, oh shoot, I'm doing a gradient on the stroke right now, which is not what I want to do. So let me get rid of that stroke and make sure I'm on the fill. And maybe we'll make it like a dark brown instead of a black. I think that's pretty good. And then the knob, let's just make it kind of an in-between color. Alright, I don't know if I love the exact shade of this right now. This one, I want that to be a little darker too. I don't know. How's that looking? That's looking pretty good. Except, what do I have going on here? Need to make, oops. Okay, so notice how the bat is on top of the arm right now. That's not what we want, so we have to do some adjusting. I'm just going to click on this and press page down, and notice that moved his arm underneath the shirt, which we don't want that, but I'm just going to go all the way until it goes under the bat, and then I'm going to click on the shirt and send that to the end. Okay, and let's see, since the arm is going to be on top, we want to make sure that that covers up that line there. All right, well, we're making good progress. I have no idea how long this is going to take. I was hoping for about an hour, but we'll see. It's probably going to take more than that. If you were watching this far into this video, thank you. Go give me a shout on Twitter right now if you're still watching. Ah, there we go again, the curse of the ellipse. I did it again. I traced out that entire shape of his arm while I was on the ellipse tool. Bummer. I am probably gonna pick up the pace a little bit here since I've kind of already explained most of what I'm doing. So I'll probably do a little more drawing and a little less talking from here on out. Okay, so this arm has definitely some funky shadows on it, so I don't think I want to handle this with a gradient because it's not linear. And then there's all these weird things with his hand here that we need to figure out. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to trace out a shadow shape, kind of like how we did the shadows on his face. And boom. Okay. All right, and then for these fingers, let's just do something like this. This shadow is going to be pretty dark. And then let's do one more up here. How does that look? This is a little bit weird here. I almost need one here to define where the thumb is a little better. So ellipse is, again, are good tools for kind of defining the fingers. Just remember to take that ellipse option off when you're ready to draw your next shape. Don't be like me, always forgetting. That's pretty good. I don't want these to be quite that dark. Probably a little too well defined here. Just this is like the crease in his finger. All right, let's see how that looks if we stick some color on here. Looking good. Okay, we're actually getting pretty close here. Let me go ahead and just do his jeans real quick, because this is going to be a lot quicker than the shirt. There we go again with the ellipse. Classic. I knew I was going to do that at least 3 times, and I think I'm up to 3 or 4. Alright, this top edge I don't really care about, because I am going to assign these jeans to the back. The shirt's going to cover it. And then we get to decide how much detail we're going to put into here. I don't want to do too much. Probably a little definition on the pocket here. Maybe like these jeans have like the yellow dashed line. Let's try doing that. There's like a double dashed yellow line, I think, on jeans. I do not wear jeans, but you're not a human being if you're not familiar with them, so. I don't know, something like that. And then I'm gonna select both of these lines. Let's go to stroke style and choose like a dotted pattern. Make it a little skinnier. And go to the stroke and let's make them, this is the annoying thing. I haven't figured out a good way to do this. When you want to change the stroke color, if you just go down here and choose a color, it's gonna like act like it's a fill. So what I usually do is just do that. Click on stroke, and then here's a little eyedropper tool. You can go choose the color that you want and then go turn off the fill. I don't know if that made sense what I just did, but I did it. Right, and then maybe we can just put these rivets on here. We could do as much detail as we want, but I don't really, again, I'm not really trying to draw attention to the jeans too much. So let's make this like a silver, and these ones are gold, kind of. I don't know. And boy, there's so much detail you could do on these, but let's try this. If I just do a simple linear gradient, not like that though. Okay, so for most of it, we just want it to be a nice blue jean color. Maybe that? Is that a good color? I think so. And this is gonna be like, I don't know, we'll do dark blue. And we just want it to be ever so slightly dark blue there. I feel like I have to define the crotch a little bit. Otherwise it's gonna look weird. What if I put just an ellipse going down here? Sometimes I try to get away with the smallest amount of detail possible, and sometimes it just looks bad. But we probably need to do the shirt first and see how it all looks in context. I don't even know how I feel about these lines. I feel like they're standing out too much. Let's make it kind of transparent. I think these are too bold. Just make them more muted colors. Like that, I don't know. Okay, now this shirt is gonna be tricky. Let's just say it's a yellow shirt and we're gonna put red stripes on it. So, pretty much just gonna draw some shapes here. This might take a minute. There we go again. I don't know. Don't want to get too fine with the wrinkles and things. So we're not trying to reproduce, I mean, we kind of are, but you don't have to reproduce the photo. You have the photo in there to use as a reference. Oftentimes I will have multiple photos, multiple reference photos that I'm drawing from for a single drawing, and kind of like stitch things together. So I might use like facial features from one drawing and the shape of their body, their whatever their contours are for swinging or pitching or whatever it is from another picture, and it just kind of depends. So I probably need to just get all of these outlines down. While I'm thinking about this, I'm going to do a shadow inside of his sleeve here. And this is pretty simple. I'm just going to kind of do something like this. Make it black, no stroke, and transparent. Yeah. Okay, let me just try and get, oh, and he's got a blue collar on his shirt here. That's very like 70s. I'm not going to be too fine about this. We are just going to get this down and then press page down until it gets underneath his face. And let's give it a nice muted blue color like that. Make sure oops. There's no blank space underneath the bat there. Okay, alright. Definitely been dreading these stripes, so we need to just get them done, and then we'll pretty much be done with the drawing. Again, if you're still watching, thank you very much for sticking with me here. I hope that this has been useful, and I really, really hope that you will try to do one of these on your own, because my journey with this started with me just playing around, and I made some really weird, not great stuff, and then I started making some kind of cool stuff. And eventually I made this drawing that's on the shirt that I'm wearing. I don't know if you can see it, but it's Ronald Acuna Jr. A lot of people liked this design and pestered a really, really awesome company called RotoWare until they partnered with me and printed it on a shirt. So you can buy this shirt. If you go to rotoware.com, you can find a David Tate exclusive. And it's officially licensed by the MLB Players Association, so it is completely legal to sell, which is awesome. I do not do this to make a profit. I do it because it is stinking fun and just really, really cool to see how these turn out. So I hope that you'll give it a try. And you can copy my style if you want, I will not be offended, but I hope that you'll inject your own artistic style into it. And I never considered myself to be an artist. In fact, my older brother, who is an extremely talented artist, painter, calligrapher, you name it, I always just thought, oh yeah, my brother, he's the artist. And I'm not, because I could never color between the lines and do all of that, but I found that this was very satisfying because I can just kind of follow a template and I don't have to stress about coloring between the lines because the computer does that for me. My other brother's doing really cool illustration stuff right now. He's got an Instagram called BMXRC, as in remote control fun. So he also does cool stuff with RC cars. But yeah, so he has a really cool Instagram. Check him out too. So I guess all three brothers have found our own little artistic niche, and it's pretty fun to share. Getting close, folks. Okay, we got all those down, and now we just have his other sleeve. Another quick note about these, if you use a copyrighted image that you're drawing from, which I don't understand exactly how this works with a movie. I'm sure whatever movie studio made The Sandlot technically owns the rights to this image, and so I don't sell these drawings, and I don't recommend that you sell them either, because the situation with rights and things like that it's tricky, and I wouldn't want you to get in any trouble. So I'm not recommending that you reproduce anything that would be copyrighted or anything and sell it. However, you can use all these same techniques and you can draw your family, you can draw your kids, your spouse, and that would not be under any copyright or anything, and it can make a neat gift. Okay, I think that's all the stripes, so let's choose a nice shade of red, maybe that, nice little faded red. Okay, before I fill in the yellow of his shirt, we want to just define some of these creases a little bit. And I usually do these little shirt shadows with ellipses, because it's just really easy and quick. Okay, that looks good, and then we should probably do a funky little shadow over here. You can see the shadow of the bat, and just kind of like the shadow of his arm and the bat here. Just do that real quick. Sometimes the snapping can be a little irritating if it snaps where you don't want it to. So you can always turn off whatever snapping you want. Or you can do what I do and just scroll in way far and then kind of get around it. Okay, and then let's do one more shadow over here on this side. This one will be pretty simple. Just like that. Okay, we are almost to the finish line, folks. So let's get a nice light yellow. I think that looks good, or even lighter maybe. Get all these residual strokes off. Ooh, okay, that's looking pretty good. Let's maybe redefine these pockets a little more. Don't really like how that looks right now. I mean, you can tweak this to the stars, but, and I probably will, but I don't want to keep this video going too long because it's already very long, I'm sure. I didn't keep track of when I started, but that's it. That is how I do it. So one final note, this is what's called a scalable vector graphic, or SVG, and the cool thing about it is you can zoom in as far as you want and there's going to be no loss of resolution, because this picture is not defined by pixels like most images are. Instead, it's defined literally by lines and coordinates. So if you think back to like your junior high algebra class, when you learned about like the coordinate system and all that, that's basically how this drawing is. Essentially a text file of coordinates and instructions for how to color things and how the curves work. So, but it's not a friendly format for sharing on Twitter, for instance. So we want to be able to export it, and so we'll just go over here to export. And you can set it up however you want. If you choose page, then it's going to export everything inside of these boundaries, or if you select everything and have it on selection, it'll export everything inside of here. And right now it'll have a transparent background, but you can, create rectangles and create whatever background or whatever you want. And then you can define the resolution of your final image, because you're going to be creating an image defined by pixels. So anyway, that's how you export. But yeah, there's the basics. We've created Hamilton Porter. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you've learned something. And again, please share your creations with me. Hit me up on Twitter, Dren_Braves. All right, I think that'll do it. Thanks for sticking around.